Okay, as we begin, we're going to start with our lotion in our hand, and we're going to do the getting acquainted. Start your lotion up higher, drag it down to the foot so you don't end up with too much lotion on the foot itself to be sliding. And we're going to take our thumbs and alternate them here. This is a real nice get acquainted move, and make sure all the lotion's right down into the heel. After you've done that, you're ready to begin. We're going to start with the spine, and we're going to push back on the foot, back and away, cup underneath the heel, start at the base of the heel, which would be like the tailbone, start the crawl. When you get up to where the waistline would be, you're going to turn your hand as a guideline here, get your thumb back in position, crawl up the inside of that first metatarsal. When you get to the diaphragm line, you're going to support the great toe and be able to push right in here and keep the toe up straight and comfortable. We work to the base of the toenail, and then when we're turning to come down, we slide our fingers between the great toe and the second toe, start at the base of the great toenail, which is the top of the neck, and start down. As you follow down, just let your left hand be your support and cup under the heel, working right down to the tailbone, the base of the spine. The next reflex areas we're going to work is the head and the great toe, and the base of the great toe here, the stem, which would be the neck. So in working this area, we want to support, put our finger between the first toe and the second toe and come down. Remember, as you're working through this reflex area for the great toe and the head, it all has to do with everything located in the head itself. So we have eyes, sinuses, ears, jaw. As you come straight down in and you work toward this lateral edge, there's a lot of sinus congestion at this area. Then we're going to support and come across the stem of the great toe as a neck reflex. You're working around to this inside lateral edge as you come around for the neck reflex. The next area we're going to work is the brain and the top of the toes of all the little toes too, and we're going to roll this. So you want to support the great toe and roll across the top. Now some people may be really sensitive here, so as you roll, start lighter and then go a little bit deeper. Then you support for the next toe, you support up and press right into the top and roll across. You can use your thumb this way, but you want to be careful because it can be sensitive. And so we're going to roll across. You can roll to the right if you like, but I think it's a little more natural if you roll medially, lateral to medial. If the hand is short and you can't reach, just switch, and then you can roll either direction. If someone has had a stroke, or if someone is older and this is real tender, you just want to work a little extra time here. The next reflex we're going to be working with are the toes. Remember to support behind and put your hand on top of your own fingers and move your fingers up high enough so you support each toe as you come down. We only work the toes from the distal end down toward the root of the toe. pull down on the pad and start up at the top and move down. We follow all the way to the 5th toe, and if that's too far of a stretch for your fingers, you can switch supporting hands and move to the top, working down into the little toe. The dorsal tops of the toes are all areas for the front of the throat. So we worked across this way for thyroid and throat. You can also support the foot up and back and walk your fingers straight down the toes. And we do this on all of the little digits if you're having trouble with your throat, sore throat. It can be neck if you're coming in on the side. Mostly throat, front of the throat, coming down the dorsal tops of the toes. So just make your same little crawl with the distal end of your finger so that you're not sliding. And you get this nice little crawl where you can feel all the little movement underneath. So remember, working all directions is really good, but on the toes it's very hard to work medial to lateral or lateral to medial. So if you support the foot up and back, it's much easier to come straight down. That way you're not pinching. In the area for the eyes, when we're doing eye specific, you're going to go right between the 2nd and 3rd toe, and you're going to draw a line down about 1/2 inch. Then you're going to support the foot and work right into this area, and you'll usually feel just a little bit of congestion in here. Even if a person wore glasses, this would show up as congestion. So that would be specific for eyes, and the two toes for the eye reflex are the 2nd and 3rd, where the ears are 4th and 5th. So you would work the 2nd and 3rd toe, supporting behind, and doing your little crawl down. And after you've worked the 2nd and 3rd toe, come right down between the 2nd and 3rd and feel for eye specific. If someone is having eye challenges or cataracts or any challenge in that area, that you could find a lot of congestion in here, and that's eye specific. Okay, we just did eyes here and eye specific. Now we're going to do ears, 4th and 5th zones or meridians, and right down between the 3rd and the 4th, we're going to find the area for ear specific. Make sure you support the foot back and away and come in at this very pointedly so that you can feel for any ear challenges. So if a person's wearing hearing aids or has extra wax in their ears or any challenges there, this is just a real good area to go over. And then we want to support the toes, keep your fingers behind, everything wraps, and you come down into these little root areas of the toes. And then ear specific is right between the 3rd and the 4th little toe. Good. The next reflex we're going to work is the shoulder at the lateral edge. We're going to rock in between the 4th and 5th metatarsal here And if it's hard to get down in between, that means the shoulders could be a little tighter. And we're going to work up, right out to the very lateral edge, which would be shoulder arm. The next reflex will be the top of the shoulder, the trapezius area, and this is walking the ridge. Start laterally, right at the base of each of the toes, and come right toward the great toe. If you're doing this properly, you'll see the toes move. After working the shoulder reflex here at the lateral edge, it's a nice time to work in some relaxation techniques. This is the metatarsal flop, back and forth. You should hear your fingers flopping on the top of the foot. The other one, you can press your knuckles in and do a little bit of a squeeze, this metatarsal squeeze, pushing back, squeezing just a little with your supporting hand. This is nice and relaxing right at the diaphragm. The next reflex we're going to work with is between the shoulder blades. We're going to come always medial to lateral to start. Have a nice support here with the great toe being supported nicely, and we're going to start medial to lateral, coming across. Remember always to keep the foot back and away so you can see this area. It defines it. And you can rock into this a little bit exaggerated with your thumb. As you come to this edge, right at the lateral edge of the shoulder, this is between the shoulders, right down into here we've got an area for bronchial as well as for thyroid. You can work up into this reflex from this angle very comfortably. And then you can rock into it. That would be between the shoulder blades, bronchioles, and thyroid. There are three areas for thyroid. Right down here medially as it wraps around the first metatarsal. Then we have thyroid specific, which is right at the base of the great toe, right where it joins. And then we have the top of the great toe, which is just like your throat. So to work this, we're going to work up and down in this area. This could also be bronchioles, so you might find this tender on people, and you're going right through the heart reflex. You can also support and come down with it. I find it most comfortable ergonomically to work from the bottom up. If you feel a lot of congestion right in here, that's quite normal. A lot of people have congestion right in through here. So just use a little less pressure and work up through that reflex. Then thyroid specific, take your thumb, slide it down right at the base where it joins, and you just do a few rocking motions right into thyroid specific. And then on the top of the great toe would be the throat, neck, thyroid. And we come around to the front of the great toe. This would be like your throat and your neck. So we want to come around for thyroid specific up in through here. It's not really thyroid specific, but it is visually where you see the thyroid in the front of the neck. Thyroid specific would be right here at the 7th cervical area, right where the great toe joins. So as you're working across here, we only work medial to lateral. And just crawl your fingers across here. And those are the 3 areas for thyroid. Okay? In the next reflex, we're going to be working the chest and the lung, and this is deep within the body on the bottom of the foot, so we're much more into the deeper lung reflex here. So we start medial. You're working zones 2 through 4. You've already worked the between the shoulder blades and the lateral shoulder, so now you're working right in between. You can support and work lateral to medial. And you'll usually find one direction to be just a little bit more tender. The next reflex we're going to work is a diaphragm reflex. Because we start medial and work lateral, we can come right in and walk across this area with our thumb. You're getting an idea as to how sensitive it is. And then we plant our thumb in and pull up and over just a little bit. This allows the thumb to sink down in and not be difficult or stressful to the thumb itself. This reaches nicely into the reflex and is very relaxing for a person. Usually we go medial to lateral on this as the only direction. Ergonomically, you're most comfortable here. The next reflex we're going to work is the adrenal reflex. Slide your thumb down the lateral edge of the 5th metatarsal and draw your line across. That gives you your guideline for the waistline. Push the toe back to find where the tendon line comes down. Now let the toe back up straight, and the adrenal reflex will be found medial to the tendon line. So you can start working in this area and start a little bit lighter because oftentimes this reflex is tender. Remember too, if you find this reflex all to be tender, it could be that the reflex has expanded because of the tension. The next reflex is a stomach reflex. In this reflex, you're going to pull down to find the guideline with your thumb for the waistline. The stomach reflex lies between the diaphragm and the waistline and over to about the 3rd zone or meridian. So we're going to make sure the toes are up and straight as we go across this tendon line and work this whole area. The next reflex is the spleen reflex, and that's right under the diaphragm line, and it covers the 4th and 5th meridian. Make sure you have good support here with your supporting hand. And if you want to put your hand as a support here right on the ball of the foot, that works too. If this area is extremely tender, you can support with the left and make a circular motion. The next reflex is the kidney reflex. We can draw our thumb down again on the outside, 5th metatarsal, to find the waistline guideline. And you're going to be feeling for the tendon line, and the kidney reflex lies lateral to the tendon line, so it's going to be just to the right on the left bottom foot. It lies 2/3 above the waistline reflex and 1/3 below. Approximately, you can visualize that. We start medial in our diagonal. If this is a real tender reflex, we work it from different directions here and just start a little lighter and go deeper. Always keeping the foot back but the toes straight. After you've worked all these reflexes, it's a nice time to put in some of the relaxation techniques like the side-to-side ankle flap. And you can do this with moderate pressure, not deep pressure, on the ankle itself. And you just want the foot to go side to side. It's a nice relaxing technique after you've worked these reflexes. The next reflex we're going to look at is the hip reflex. Remember that the reflexes go through the foot, so we have the hip knee leg on the top of the foot as well as coming down to the bottom of the foot. So we're going to start here working into the waistline reflex. So after you've pulled your thumb down and you find where that guideline is, you can work right into that reflex for the hip knee leg. The next reflex we're going to work with is a uterus reflex, uterus specific. And you wrap your hand underneath, your finger will fall right into the dip that is the squaring off of the ankle here, and you're going to just gently rotate the ankle in. As you rotate in, you press off, and that gets the specific reflex for the uterus. At that point, you can also work the uterus reflex throughout the whole region for the pelvis. In the next reflex, as we work the sciatic, I want you to remember it does go across the base of the heel. It also wraps up the inside of the ankle, and it makes a stirrup up the outside of the ankle as well, just under the lateral ankle bone. So as we work here, you can start medial and work across and into the heel. If you want to support down below and work in, you can do that. This one takes a lot more pressure because this is an area where we commonly walk. As you come up the inside ankle, you can start right above where you just worked for the uterus reflex, and you can work up into this area gently because it is more tender, and then you can turn your hand up and bring your thumb back down in. Just know that this area is going to be real tender on most people. The next reflex will be the low back and bladder. Remember that they overlap each other here. So as you work in, if you would come just from the bottom a little bit more and slant up into this reflex. If you see this red at all, that does signify that it is a bladder reflex congestion. And then from here we turn and we go up toward the kidney reflex, so we're moving up in at a diagonal through and into the ureter tubes as a reflex. And you will feel when you get up there, if someone has a bladder infection, this could feel much more obvious. So remember to come in, turn, and walk up. Good. The next reflex will be the small intestine, and this is going to wrap from zone 2 to 4. It is going to be above the heel line and below the guideline of the waistline. So you can start in medially and go at a diagonal across all of these meridians. You can also support with your left hand and come across with your right. The next reflex will be the large intestine, and that's going to come into the heel a little bit and then go up to the waistline reflex and across. We start this one on the inner, which is going to be your medial edge, and come down into the heel. Then we turn, because right in through here is that sigmoid reflex. So we come down into the sigmoid reflex, and then we head up to the waistline guideline. We support with our left hand and come across. If you're working specifically for the large intestine, this is a pattern or path that you can follow. The next reflex will be what wraps around the heel for the rectum, and this can also be for hemorrhoids across here. So in doing this reflex, it is a bit of an awkward position, so there's two different ways you can do it. You can wrap the hand, hold and support, and come underneath in your crawl, crawling right from the outside and then into the medial. Or you can come from the medial edge, support, and work back. This is a nice time to add the spinal twist for relaxation. So you put your left hand supporting hand right at the waistline reflex and wrap it across the top. Put your other hand right up next to it, and what you're doing is rocking away. You're not pulling back, you're rocking up and then letting the foot come back into position. Rock up and let it come back. Rock up and back. And you don't have to go any higher than right here at the diaphragm guideline. So keep them together. Start again at the base, rock away, rock up, rock up. A nice relaxation technique at the end is to support with your left hand here. Put your knuckles in right at the diaphragm. So you're supporting, placing, and sliding down the whole bottom of the foot right to the heel line. It's place in and slide. This feels very good.